People like to buy from people they know and trust. We shouldn't want to sell a product or a service. We want to sell ourselves. We want to have a role to play with a customer built on the architecture of trust. You got to establish trust first. And technology has made that a very noisy playing field. People think the relationship is driven by doing a social post, but that's not what relationships are. Don't hide behind the shield of technology. Get out there and create that trust with someone. Salespeople want a relationship. What do you think happens if you give them more time to do that very thing? They'll build better relationships and more of them. And that's who wins.
Hello, welcome to the Differentiation podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli. I'm your host, and today we are being joined by Ian Selbie. In 1984, Ian was a young Canadian salesperson, a little bit of a whippersnapper who walked into Apple, and only 6 years later, he was named the top salesperson in the world by Apple. That same drive has carried Ian forward over 25 years and helped him impact and serve over 17,000 sales professionals around the globe with his own designed methodology. He has also authored the book, If You Were Arrested for Selling, Would There Be Enough Evidence to Convict You? I love that. He is the generous and enthusiastic host of the Confessions of a Sales Pro podcast. And most recently, he has co-founded SalesLook, a clean and intuitive CRM that's designed to help salespeople get out from behind their computers and actually focus on their customers. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. Ian, thank you for joining us.
Michèle, so kind of you to invite me back onto the podcast. And certainly we're brother-sister podcasters. I know that, which is wonderful. Greatly appreciate the offer. And of course, your amazing words. Thank you, Michèle.
Absolutely. Well, as I was crafting this, because we've known each other a long time, and as I was crafting this introduction, it occurred to me, I was like, holy mackerel, Ian, you are a real innovator and a builder. You're a creator. As we think about all the different things and everything that you've done is in service of helping sales professionals get better, whether it's your book, whether it's your podcast, or even with SalesLook, the CRM. So I kind of wanted to touch base there and start with, what are you, like, you're a builder. You're constantly building something in support of others. Talk to me about that. Where did this come from? The builder in you.
I think that's a great question, Michèle. And I don't know, I've always looked at the role of a sales professional, not to be a seller, but to be a provider or a server. So that's been ingrained in me since, as you mentioned, even before 84 when I joined Apple. So if you can help people, you can feel good about what you're doing, and the world of karma comes back to us in so many kind ways. So if you give, it's kind of like the movie Pay It Forward, right? If you can do something for someone else without expectation, you do enough of that, and all of a sudden the world starts to give and take back and forth. So it's I don't know, it's my moniker, it's my philosophy. And I picked the area of sales and sales leadership for my entire career, as you mentioned. And so, my purpose is to help them reach their potential in many ways. And there's always lots of ways to help someone get to their very next level.
Love that. There are always lots of different ways to help people get to their next level. That's so true. And that's, just something to think about for all of our listeners, that, the one way isn't the only way. There is a unique way that you're bringing to the table. And really, Ian, there's a couple of things here that you're talking about, being from the perspective of being a provider and being a server in service of others. And this belief that if you help people, good karma brings it back in different ways, as long as it's without expectation. Can we just hang out there just a wee bit before we get into, where did this come from? Is this something that was ingrained in you as a kid at your family level? Or where did this good karma belief that, you're providing and you're serving, good karma comes back? Where did this come from?
Good question. I was blessed to have great parents. We're immigrants from Scotland. So when you said just a wee bit, I was like, aye, we can. Just a wee bit, Michèle.
Just a wee bit. That's
But
fun.
my mom was a very strong Scottish woman, very extroverted, and so she had this nonstop go, go, go. And my
Mm,
dad was more of a softer man, a gentleman, and
mm.
they both gave me words of wisdom throughout my life. My dad used to always say, "Son, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well."
Oh my gosh,
And
your
and
dad and
I
my
I
dad were
I
kindred spirits.
and I remind myself of that all the
Hmm.
time that if you're going to do something, just don't hang out in the shallow end of the pool. Get out there and swim
Mm,
and see
hmm.
if you can save anyone, right? Like
Mm,
that's kind of where it takes me, even with simple things like LinkedIn. And I know we're both very active
hmm.
on LinkedIn. I get lots of likes and views a day. I make it my commitment to 3 to 1. I want to give
Mm,
3 times as many likes as I get received.
mm.
So when I log on in the morning before I do my morning post, usually it's a podcast. In fact, this morning was you being a guest on mine again.
Yeah.
I don't even post. I go through and look at all the people I know who they're posting things, different time
Yeah.
zones. So I'm like, and
Yeah.
sometimes repost, share because of what it's about. So I
Mm,
don't know if we pay it forward, if we have that sort of Christmassy attitude about give before you receive, I think
hmm.
good things happen. I just been in my nature my whole life.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yeah, I can hear that. Wonderful influences from your parents, especially when you've got this. It's interesting because you talked about your mom being no nonstop, go, 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 and then you talked about your dad being that gentle spirit or gentleman. Um, and I think about those two dynamics and how when they blend together, it's such a perfect way of being. There's a drive, but a gentleness to that drive and some service in that as well. That's about others and being kind and warm. That's what I'm hearing. Is
yeah,
that?
I definitely look like my dad, but I have more of my mom's personality, but
Uh-huh.
I've got some of that gentleness thrown in from my dad as well.
Yeah.
And that's been followed through. I look at my 3 daughters and they've got bits and pieces of my mom and dad, me and their mom in
Mm.
their personalities as well. It's an interesting thing, legacy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So okay, so you're when you were starting your career, of course you were focused on doing your job well, and that was really about serving. When it was Apple, who were you serving at that time? Like where was this drive fueled? Because it wasn't necessarily in helping other salespeople at that time. It was really something different, right?
It was. And when my first role, Michelle, great question. Uh, I started off looking after the reseller channel. We used to
Mhm.
call them the dealers, the
Okay.
partners that would
Mm-hmm.
sell for us across the province. And so
Mm,
that's who I wanted to help. I wanted to help them be better at selling not just Apple, but
right.
for their business.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I put together some of my early sales training, Michelle. I built it while at Apple back in my mid late 20s, and I would put Apple dealers through some sales training for free just to help them with their business. And what happens with Apple? They want to sell more Apple because there's some loyalty, there's reciprocity that happens from these things.
Right.
And then I got into the corporate sales, enterprise sales. And that's when I won that big award, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the shout out on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then who was I serving? Well, I was serving my customers
Mm,
across the desk. What are their issues? And as we've talked before, it goes far beyond trying to help them buy the right kinds of Macs for their business. It's like, what's going on with your business? There's other ways we can add value if we understand what your pain is and what you're trying to accomplish. So
right.
I've always had this serving kind of attitude or mindset to the role that I've played. And in fact, in sales leadership, there's another level of it there too. Who are you trying to help then? Your team, your
Mm-hmm.
people. So you're
Mm-hmm.
still in service,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a reseller, a partner, a customer, a client, or your team, not just salespeople, but anyone on the team. You can have this
Yeah.
service type attitude to everything in your life.
Exactly. And I think there's something here that I'm hearing, Ian, that's I think worth putting attention towards, and it's your orientation is, as I'm getting a sense, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing an orientation around the whole ecosystem of the environment. It's not just the computer needed or the system needed for the business, but how is it serving the business in a bigger way? And what does the business need that is more significant than just this thing that you're selling or helping them with? So this
Absolutely,
ecosystem
Michelle.
perspective, right? There's that, I think, is to your point at the very beginning, there are always ways to help people reach their potential. There's infinite ways to help people and support people to reach their potential. And what I get the sense that you were doing is leaning into all of these different portals and seeing where can I bring value or where can I help this business thrive, not just in the one that I'm, representing per se.
Absolutely. And when you think about, professional selling as a career, as a
Mm,
community, uh, what are the three most important things in real estate? Location, location, location. What are the three most important things in sales? Relationship, relationship, relationship.
yeah.
So if you look at it more holistically, not
Mm,
just one person trying maybe to buy something, if you look at their overall ecosystem, the word you
mhm,
mentioned, you've got a far bigger target to help serve value to
mhm.
that whole collective.
What excites you about that?
Well, because there's a number of things. Of course, the relationship that gets nurtured and developed creates loyalty. And tell me anyone who doesn't want loyalty in business, in
Yeah.
sales. We
Mm,
all do. But there's also something that makes you feel good. You helped
mhm,
someone today, and maybe it had nothing to do with the product or service you represent. You just gave them an introduction to someone or brought some information to their attention that was, right in
mhm.
front of what they need to look at. So there's a good feeling in helping people. And so it's a win-win, right? It really is a win-win. And I don't know, it seems simple, but it's being consistent with that I think sets people apart.
Yeah. You're touching on something that I find really interesting because I see this a lot in my practice as well, where, why do you do what you do? And there's a timidness or a hesitation for people to say, because it feels good to help people. It seems selfish to a lot of people, right? There's that, how is it? It shouldn't feel selfish. It shouldn't feel so good if I'm helping someone else. It should feel good to them more so, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're very clear and confident in that feeling of like, it feels good. I like that feeling. I want more of that feeling. Talk about this because I see this so much in my practice where people are hesitant or shy or feeling almost a guilt around that.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, there is things called self-efficacy that can complicate it depending on someone's psychology and those things. But I use a lot of sporting analogies in my teaching that I've been doing for 25 years, and that's why I got all the gray hair. But but the sporting analogy is if you're taking that, I would call it the consultative approach, which is add value first. If they
Mm,
want to buy some service or product from you, that's your second priority.
mhm,
So, when you think of hockey or soccer or football, you were at the Canada World Cup game the other day, so
mhm,
you know exactly what I'm talking about. People score a goal, so that's if you will, that's a sale. But there's other ways to get points. You can get an assist. You can help someone else get the goal. You
mhm,
still get a loyalty point. So
mhm.
you're still on the board, and people remember who created value for them. You
Yeah,
don't have to keep a scoreboard on that, right? You don't have
right.
to keep notes, a spreadsheet. Well, I helped her today and I helped him. Yes,
Mhm.
you don't have to be doing that. It's just, it's just a behavior. It's a
Yeah,
way of being.
exactly. Thank you for that. It's like you said, a way of being.
Absolutely. It's their priorities first,
Yeah,
yours second.
nice.
I even take that approach to a round of golf with a client.
Yeah,
And a lot of people are like, by the third hole, did you start talking about your? No, I'm not bringing that up at all. I'm working
yeah,
the whole 18 holes on relationship.
yeah,
If he asked me, then he gave me permission
right,
and is interested in learning more, but I'm not bringing it
right.
up.
Yeah, that's actually that's a really interesting piece. You spoke about permission and you're just building relationship. And when someone has developed enough rapport, we see this a lot, right? When someone has developed enough rapport with you and they're interested and they start to shift their whole interest level, and they come off their heels, I like to say, and they kind of relax a bit and they're like, hey, I've so much enjoyed this time together. Tell me about you. Because now they're exploring, I like you. And now they're exploring, would it work for us to work together? Right. And there's the permission piece where they're inviting you to talk to them about it, which is
Which
very
is a
different.
whole different thing than trying to pitch someone, right?
Right.
And that's what's I've
Yeah.
never liked that approach. Relationship first, revenue reporting way later.
Yeah.
Relationship first, and they say people like to buy from people they know
Exactly.
and trust. And so that's the relationship. So without that foundation, it might not matter how great your service or product is.
Yeah.
If they don't trust you, they might get that, but maybe from someone else they do trust.
Exactly. Exactly. That's great. Okay. So here we're talking about trust. And now I'm thinking, okay, so you've been in sales a long time and you've seen a big shift in terms of, I remember even in my time selling, and I was never in sales full time, but we had like index card and we had a Rolodex. And so it was a bit of a paper system and it was very simple. It was not a complicated system, it just kept you in track. And then, of course, you've seen the development over technologies and now we have such robust technical platforms to support salespeople, theoretically. And that's what brings me to SalesLook, because I know how passionate you've been about the design of SalesLook. So what I want to do is I would love for you to tell us a little bit about just briefly what it is, but then let's talk about the core of it is getting technology out of the way, essentially. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we can get into the next piece.
Sure, sure, Michelle. And you're right. Technology and look at AI now, it's everywhere and everyone's scrambling to figure out how to deploy it.
Yeah.
Um, but technology in sales has long been there. I think back to my Apple days,
Hmm.
and it's kind of before the internet actually was
Yeah.
born, and we had something called Apple Link. So if I was working on a large hydro account, for example, in Western Canada, and a colleague in Australia
Hmm.
was working on a like account, we would Apple link each other, kind of like email each other and
Hmm.
trade notes to help each other,
Right.
right? And so now it's evolved, and you're right. People have, I call it boiling the ocean in software.
Hmm.
It's just they've thrown so much in, and a lot of these traditional CRM companies, Michelle, are public companies, so they have to show their board constant
Right.
development to the platform.
Yeah.
So they're continually adding layers and layers to it. And okay, that probably provides functionality, but what does it do to the salesperson?
Hmm.
And that's where I live. The salesperson and sales leader, it actually handcuffs them to their keyboard because
Hmm.
all the extra information has to be collected by somebody. And that somebody is typically the default is the
Yeah.
salesperson.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, probably not intentionally, they're stealing the most precious asset a salesperson has, and that's their time.
Hmm.
Their time. I've had one of the as you mentioned, I've trained and coached many people around the world for a long time, and you know what it's like, Michelle, when you're coaching someone, it goes beyond the business. You
Hmm.
develop a friendship, a
Hmm.
personal friendship, and
Hmm.
they start to really tell you everything that's going on, not
Hmm.
just the questions you might ask, but you get context as well.
Hmm.
And I've had so many salespeople tell me, Ian, do you know how long it takes for me to update my CRM? It's over a day a week. It's like 25% of my selling
Yeah.
time. I have to be at the keyboard. And to me, I heard that so long, Michelle, for so many years, because I'm coaching them with
Hmm.
whatever platform they're using to try
Right.
and make sense of their pipeline. And quite often it's just a list. It's not actually a dashboard. And I thought, this is terrible. I owe the sales world's been so generous and helpful for me. It's been a place where I've been
Mm.
serving into for decades. I kind of feel like I owe the
Yeah.
sales world something. And so we set out to build SalesLook. We had a couple of design principles in mind. Two words that come to mind is freedom. First and foremost, freedom, which is
Mm.
unhandcuff them from the keyboard,
Yeah.
let them go out there and build and nurture relationships with clients and prospects. So if
Mm-hmm.
you give them more time to do that, what will sales professionals do with
Right.
that additional time? It's like
Mm-hmm.
giving them an extra day a week or week a month or quarter a year to
Mm.
sell. Salespeople will sell more.
Mm-hmm.
You also freeing the sales leader, because sales leaders have to dig into the traditional CRMs and try and make sense out of it as well
Mm-hmm.
from a coaching or forecasting standpoint. So freedom to both salespeople and sales leadership. The other design principle is focus. And this is visual. So SalesLook has a very visual dashboard with
Mm.
colored cells that represent lines of business, sorted by lead measurement. What's the best deal in your pipeline first? It goes to the top. And to advance a deal in your pipeline, you can just drag and drop it. It's like
Yeah.
a second. I can input a new deal in SalesLook in about 10 seconds. It takes over 10 minutes. I know I've done it in
Mm-hmm.
traditional CRM. So that's to the point that freedom and focus is what they want. We've had many people on SalesLook
Mm-hmm.
now for a couple of years, and no one has left the platform. So to me,
Mm.
that's the feedback that says they're used to it now,
Yeah.
they like it, and they're going to keep using it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the core, like what I heard, freedom, but I also really heard that it's about releasing people, to your point, from the keyboard, like getting them away from it. And I think, gosh, we have seen so much change in the last, especially in the last 25 years, from my perspective at least, in the general behavior of salespeople. And selling is done on social media, selling is done on email, selling is done through landing pages, selling is it's all campaign driven. And people forget that there's a relationship in there somewhere. So the whole thing has become very unfulfilling because there's no relationship anymore. It's just one transaction after another. And so for even for salespeople, my sense is even the clients I work with, the people in sales that I work with, not on sales training per se, but their sense of meaning and joy has become clouded by this sense of everything's a transaction and they're having trouble generating loyalty. And that's both sides, right? Consumers are getting more and more, I think consumers are more and more expecting to go through a sales process that is digitally driven as opposed to relationally driven more and more, especially with the younger generations. So, Ian, I was curious about your experience with technology specifically, because over the last many, many years, we've seen so much change in technology and how both customers and vendors, if you will, suppliers, are engaging with technology and becoming so dependent on it. And here as you're looking at SalesLook and bringing back the relationship as the heart of the whole ecosystem and the transaction and whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about what's influencing this for you? What's driving this bringing of the relationship back? You talked about it a little bit, but I want to hear more from you in terms of what you've seen.
Or you're right, Michelle. There's so much. It's almost like technology commoditization.
Yeah.
And people think the relationship is driven by doing a social post, by sending someone a text, by, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, some kind of YouTube video or,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of email. And now AI is jumping into that lane as well. But that's not where relationships are. I know, I'm not sure about you, Michelle. I'll get an email from someone typically asking me if they can promote my podcast. You
Yeah.
probably get them by now too. And I know that's not written by a human. I can
Right.
tell
Yeah.
that's machine language,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I get how technology can help us, but we better humanize it. Customers, prospects, everybody wants a relationship. They want, they don't want to buy a product. We shouldn't want to sell a product or a service. We want to sell ourselves. We want to have a role to play with a
Mm-hmm.
customer built on the architecture of trust. Because if
Mm.
someone trusts you, don't worry, they'll buy lots and maybe so will their friends and family. But
Mm-hmm.
you got to establish trust first. And technology has made that a very noisy playing field,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. But at the heart of the matter, everyone's always wanted a relationship. And I
Yeah.
don't care what AI does later, that's not going to replace relationships. It can't.
No, no. There was an interesting phrase that you used, a relationship built on the architecture of trust. And there's a couple of really big pieces here that both trust, excuse me, both trust and relationship. And what we're seeing with technology generally and AI, and like we were talking about earlier, where sales are done through social and digital channels as opposed to relationship-based channels. So trust has been actively eroded because of this digital world that we live in. And what's happening with the consumer is that they're now no longer trusting anything. And of course, with commoditization of this digital world of purchasing now, there's nothing but price and the best deal that's really driving a lot of this. So this ecosystem of buyers and sellers is less and less relationship based. What have you seen and through SalesLook, because you're starting to rebuild this awareness around relationships. I want to see, what have you seen over the last couple of years with your users, and what do you hope for going forward?
Well, Michelle, that's a great. Really, when I talked about the design principles of SalesLook before we even picked up a line of code and started to build it, it was about that. Like
Mm,
good salespeople want a relationship. And I think the good salespeople know, yes, we have to be posting, podcasting, doing lots. And that's just marketing to me. That's influence. That's not selling. It's
mm-hmm,
in their influence channels and,
mm-hmm,
awareness. And it's more of a marketing role
mm-hmm,
than a relationship role. So,
mm-hmm.
but what I found with technology and how it creeped into the salesperson's day, their week, their month was the amount of time it took.
Yeah,
And so salespeople want a relationship. What do you think happens if you give them more time to do that very thing?
they go out and they talk to
And
people.
that's it. They go talk to people.
Yeah,
They do a better job for their existing clients.
yeah,
They do account reviews, do follow up with them, making sure they're happy and
mm-hmm,
satisfied, continuing to add value. They follow up with new prospects, with perhaps referrals that they're given because these relationships are flourishing.
mm-hmm,
Referrals start to flow. If
mm-hmm.
there's no relationship, referrals aren't going to happen.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
because anyone could look at your post on LinkedIn and go, well, if you want some, they want some. Well, that's not relationship selling.
exactly.
That's in a way that's advertising.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And we just touched on this, like salespeople are not meant to be in an office behind a computer. They are like salespeople, all the salespeople I know anyway, they are in sales because they love talking to people. They love people, they love talking to people, they love helping people. And I think somehow through the technology and the metrics and the numbers and the database and the information and everything else, somehow that gets eroded or neglected or forgotten or dismissed, that we want a relationship. Salespeople thrive on relationships.
It's
um,
so true.
so true. And these technology platforms, and even and again, I think what we're seeing a lot of, and I'm seeing this, so I'm curious about what your thoughts are. Because consumers are becoming more adept at buying through digital platforms and in more transaction oriented deals, if you will. They're becoming less trusting of relationships. They desire those relationships less because they're not placing as much value on them anymore. Because buyers aren't necessarily as people oriented as salespeople are, right? They're not necessarily the same. Everybody wants relationships, but when the relationship um, is not built to what was your on an architecture of trust, and if the buyer doesn't think that that can be had, they're not going to waste any time on it.
Well, therein lies, Michelle, a wonderful opportunity
Right? Yeah.
to differentiate one of your
Mm-hmm.
favorite words, to differentiate yourself. Don't hide behind the shield of technology.
Yeah.
Get out there and create that trust with someone humanly,
Yeah.
not through your screen, not through your keyboard, in person. You're right. Salespeople, we were born to interact with people, and that
Hmm.
doesn't mean just talk. We have to speak. We have to ask good questions, but we have two ears and one mouth. We still have to use them that way. We have to listen and understand the needs and desires of the client. So we have to do that. But sales, we I don't know, when it comes to technology, CRMs included, I have a question to any CEO who's saying we're thinking about automating this and getting a technology platform
Hmm.
to replace some of this and do some of that. And I like that. Will it help them win, or
Yeah.
is it just more admin?
Yeah,
Because
go
right,
ahead.
it's
Yeah. Hmm.
salespeople want to win. That's why no one gave me
Exactly.
when I had a sales interview through my years many years ago. No one asked me how fast I could type.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it must be part of the interview
Now it's part of the
process.
job. Yeah. Well, you're really what I just picked up on, and the thought just came to me, but I'd never thought of this before. When you've got your buyer and your seller, okay, so you've got your salesperson and you've got your buyer. The salesperson, again, they're people. They want relationships, so they enter the relationship very open, right? Because we're fast friends, right? And that's, I think, how a lot of people are. They're just very open and they want to meet people and they want to talk to people, and that's their orientation. Most buyers now are skeptical. So they come in with more hesitation, guaranteed, than they did 30 or 40 years ago, right? They are much more skeptical, much more transaction oriented. And so they're more resistant right out of the gates. And I think that's a shift that we haven't necessarily given enough respect to as salespeople, because salespeople, I think, salespeople are used to having a relationship develop quickly. And so now they actually have to spend more time helping that and nurturing that relationship into something that is an architecture of trust, a foundation of trust and loyalty. And that's something that your thoughts on this? Do you see where I'm going with it? That there's
Definitely,
more
definitely.
work at the front end for salespeople in terms of just the foundation of the relationship itself. And I don't know that that's being done out there very well. Your thoughts?
I think, Michelle, that is the opportunity. That, yeah, you're right. The buyers, they can do a lot of their own research online. They
Yeah.
can already have a short list before they even raise their hand and start to
Yeah.
talk to anyone. Um, and I think for a salesperson that takes that initiative, that gets out there first and develops that relationship, that sense of trust and loyalty with someone, that buyer is going to be happier with that
Yeah.
because it's refreshing to them
Yeah.
because they're left to the commodity world of online everything.
Right.
And once you've got that, you've nurtured, developed, earned that trust, respect, and loyalty. There's nothing wrong with reordering using technology. Oh, we'll take 20 more of the blue
Mm-hmm.
ones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can go on our website and do that. If you need me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. But if you want to make it easier, more efficient for the buyer, there's lots of ways to accomplish that as well, Michelle. But no, you're right. I think technology has impacted both sides of the desk.
Mm-hmm.
But what I know in my heart, if you give salespeople more time, I
Yeah.
know they'll build better
Yeah.
relationships and more of them.
Yeah.
And that's who wins.
Right.
People with the best relation, they might not have the best price, they might not even have the best product or service, but because they have the most trust and
Yeah.
loyalty, they will win.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't just win in the sale itself, they also win in just the experience of the relationship and life, right?
Absolutely. It's like back to what we were talking about initially, which is
Yeah.
having that service attitude. It lets you be that person more often.
Yeah.
So, unhandcuff the salespeople from the keyboard and watch what they can do. Sure, we have to keep score. It's not
Yeah.
just,
It's always been
whatever they
like that,
do.
though.
Yeah, but yeah, we need to keep score of some things,
Yeah.
but make it easy to do that for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
More
Mm-hmm.
time equals more sales, more happy, more service. It's just, yeah, a better mindset for all involved, for sure.
Exactly, exactly. So what are you seeing as a result of unleashing salespeople through the SalesLook CRM now? I'd love to hear what you're noticing and what's changed for them.
Sure. There's definitely been a number of different feedback points. One, which is purely data, is everyone who started using it is still using it, and they continue as their companies
Yeah.
grow. They add users, so the user count continues to rise. That just is without any subjective. That's an objective measure of
Yeah.
loyalty and
Mm-hmm.
happiness and
Mm-hmm.
satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
The subjective measure is the feedback we're getting, which is, Ian, do you know how long you've given me an extra at least day a week to sell?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm the top rep on the team this month, thanks in large part to SalesLook, because I had more time to go do it and not
Right.
try and type about it. Right. So that's more subjective. The other piece of feedback we get is from leadership,
Mm.
especially with remote leadership. Some sales organizations, there might be a sales leader, 3 or 4 reps in one office, and they see each other every day. So there's a constant ebb and flow of dialogue, and
Mm-hmm.
that's great. Other leaders don't have that luxury. Some of their people are spread out in different
Right.
offices or
Mm-hmm.
locations. So giving them SalesLook as a leader coach has changed their life. They don't have to dig through anything to find something out.
Mm-hmm.
It's I remember back in my Apple days, Michèle. Then again, all I put probably everything I've learned about sales into SalesLook. Well, I haven't. Our development team did. I gave them the idea. How they did it is up to I don't know. That's beyond me. I just
Uh-huh.
know I know what I want as a sales rep and as a coach.
Yeah.
And we've done that. Back in the Apple days, once a quarter, we'd be asked for a forecast, and all we had was a spreadsheet.
Right.
And some of our listeners can probably relate to this very day. That tells you how some things have stayed the same as well as many have changed. And what that would do to the sales team, Michèle, for almost a whole day, we had to sit behind a keyboard and
Mm-hmm.
think about, go through our book of notes of everyone we talked to over the last couple of months. What are they going to buy? When they're going to buy it? Is it a forecastable or not for? And then we, send in our spreadsheet. The poor sales leader had to make sense of this, and there was no consistency. There was no
Right.
simple dashboard to look and coach. It paralyzed us for a whole day.
Yeah.
And then, and a lot of the sales rep, that's where the term cut and paste came from. What'd you tell them last quarter? I got to tell them that again this quarter because I don't know. Not much has changed, right? So you get responses like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that visual dashboard has made it a lot easier for sales leaders to be that proactive coach and mentor to their team. And that's
Yeah.
the role, that's the serving role that I talked about earlier that they
Mm-hmm.
want to play. They don't want to be a numbers dictator. They want to be a people developer.
Yeah.
And sales looks designed as a coach to help them be exactly that.
Yeah. I love that. Because it's important, I think. I love the idea of forecasting, or what we might call your projected pipeline. It's like what's in the works, what are you thinking might happen, that kind of thing. There's a couple of reasons I think that's important, which you've touched on in terms of being coached and seeing what's coming, and just having a sense of, pulse on the business per se. That's just good business. That said, to your point, I don't know any salespeople who want to be entering anything ever, right?
No,
They don't.
no,
So
no.
that whole day in the office, how often did that get
Oh,
delayed and procrastinated on? It would
oh,
be delivered
oh.
late, and sales leaders. And anyway, I'm laughing because I'm like, I've been in that position, and I know so many of my clients have been in that position as well. And I know lots of people in that position. It's always the last thing to get done, the paperwork, right? Always the last thing to get
It
done.
is. It
Um,
is.
so from the business perspective, get it on the pipeline side. The other piece that I see, and I'm sure you do as well, is the idea that when you can see that pipeline on a regular basis, like daily or weekly or however, it can be really inspiring to see what's there rather than carrying it in your head. Because sometimes when there's a down day or a down week, or it's a funk and you're having trouble kind of going, oh gosh, don't feel like I've got any opportunity right now, because every salesperson goes through bits and dips like that. Having that pipeline in front of you at your fingertips at all times is invaluable, because it kind of lights that fire and goes, oh my gosh, I have so much opportunity. So I'm imagining that with an easy entry like SalesLook, if you have something that's easy that you can maintain and it's constantly up to date, it's serving more than just one objective.
Oh, there's no doubt. And so I always look at the role of a sales or a sales management there's at least two layers to that. Of
Yeah.
course, there's a sales leader in smaller companies that might be, the owner themselves
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
playing that role. And then there's the salesperson themselves. So they
Mm-hmm.
want to manage their own business. A good way to think of sales, it's your own business within the business.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're on a team. Yes, there's
Yeah.
collaboration. Yes, you want to get assists and goals, all of those things. But if you do a good job of managing your own business, your own pipeline, it's going to be a lot
Yeah.
easier for your leader to,
Yeah.
to, to be a proactive coach and mentor. And you're right, Michèle. You could be having a bad week, a bad month, but you can visually, just at a glance,
Yeah.
look at your pipeline and say, look at all the things I got going. Oh, as a matter of fact, I haven't talked to her in a while or him in a while.
Exactly.
So it's also a heads up that
Yeah.
maybe you should do something. SalesLook lets you add alerts to the deals within the cell. So an
Mm.
alert could be anything you want it to be. It could be a close date. It could be, I promise to follow up and take a client for lunch, or I
Yeah.
need to prepare a site visit or something, need to take them to a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
So it will start to flash
Mm-hmm.
in you and remind the salesperson there's an
Right.
action item due on this,
There's a
right? So
relationship opportunity.
that's
That's
exactly
what I'm
what it
hearing,
is. It's
right?
exactly what it. And
It's
we've made it so that it could be anything.
yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
get ready to build the proposal if you
Right.
want to, but it's up to the salesperson to
Yeah.
set the note and one button to turn it on and it starts to flash on a date.
Yeah, I love it. So you've, early in your career and even now in even more pronounced way, developing salespeople to reach into their potential. I'm hearing that over and over again, and how excited you are and enthusiastic you are about that. Ian, what is your hope like for salespeople? You've touched salespeople all around the world, 17,000 and more. What do you want for salespeople going forward? What's your dream or your vision for them?
And that's big.
I
That's
know.
that's like $1 billion question. I know what moments that really make my heart warm, put a smile on my face, and it reassures me that I'm in the right lane of my life. And that I could be in an airport, Michèle. I could be in Chicago or New York or Dallas or Toronto. And someone would be at the airport and come up and say, Ian, do you remember when you were teaching in Chicago or wherever?
Yeah.
You remember your 2-day car? I said, yes. How you doing? Good to see you. I don't remember all 17,000 plus names, but
Yeah.
they remember mine. And they said,
Right.
you know what? I'm still using what you gave me. I just want to say thanks and all the best to you. Safe flight home. It's moments like that, Michèle, that it goes beyond money and number of
Hmm.
users and monthly revenue. It's way beyond that. It's like I've made an impact on someone and you can't unlearn something. I learned that a long time ago that once you know something and it helps you, you're not going to stop doing it. You might
Yeah.
make improvements on it.
Yeah.
You're not going to go backwards with it. You might go forward with it. So to me, that's why I got into this business in the first place, because I was blessed with a couple of wonderful mentors in my life.
Mm.
And I thought, I'd like to do this for a living. I'd like to mentor many. And because of the how it makes you feel, it's rewarding. And it's your favorite place to be when that's it. That's your
Yeah.
purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And to your
Yeah.
point, all salespeople want relationships, all of them. And the more meaningful and trust-based relationship those are, the more loyal they are. That just fills your boots, right? Um,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Even salespeople. So there's lots of ways to think of this. There's uh, I think the authentic way, which is do it with a serving attitude. Do it to help
Mm,
people, and don't worry, you'll get helped
yeah.
because you're adding value to people's lives every day. The other way for a salesperson to think about building these relationships based on trust, respect, and loyalty is that's an annuity stream for life. I
Hmm.
know lots of salespeople who've changed jobs, perhaps even industries,
Yeah.
and they've been able to bring some of their relationships
Hmm.
with them
Hmm.
because of the
Hmm.
trust that they've developed, nurtured through time, because that's
Exactly.
hard to recreate for anyone, for the buyer as well,
Hmm.
right? That's why buyer nature is, typically starts untrusting until
Yeah.
proven innocent.
Yeah.
Everyone's guilty,
Yeah.
right? That's buyer
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
So there's other ways to think about doing it right for the long term because it will continue to serve you and you'll continue to be able to add service to it.
Hmm. Hmm. I love how you said that, bring relationships with you, no matter where you go. Bring those relationships with you, and your life for sure will be better for it in every way. It's reminding me, just as a final thought, it's reminding me years and years ago, I was at a workshop, and the only thing I took away from it was a sales and training workshop in financial services, actually. But one of the things I took away from it was, if you're looking as you're aging and you're looking for more joy and looking for more meaning, go back to your kindergarten playmates and reconnect with them, because those are the people who knew you for who you are, not for who you're hiding behind in your professional world, right? And it was such a moment of the importance of authenticity and the importance of trust and the importance of when you really show up in service and just be the goodness that we are, really, really good things happen. And his point was those people will remind you of who you were, that will help you reconnect
Who
with
you
that
were
strength.
and what you were meant to be. I mean, I think
Yeah, such
that's
an
a
important,
wonderful message for the world. It
right?
truly is. I mean, you talked about training and seminars. One last thing I'd add about SalesLook. We built into the product, so just with that little icon, something called SalesLook University. And it's 30 minutes of me teaching, just like this environment video,
Yeah.
on what is the pipeline, what is the
Mm,
sales plan, how do you use this, how do you coach
mhm.
salespeople. So that's built in to SalesLook, so
Nice.
that you don't need to buy training elsewhere. It's right there.
Right.
How to drive the car, it's built into the car.
Right. Amazing. Right. Again, continuing to support salespeople and give in service of the whole ecosystem, not just the platform itself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because
Love it.
one day, Michelle, I'll be gone, right? We all
Hmm.
were. And
Hmm.
I'd like to leave a bit of a legacy for sales. And
Yeah.
it might be my daughters that are, you know, more involved by then.
Yeah.
But while I've still got the best of me, I want to give it to the world, to the
Love it.
sales world. I really do.
Amazing. Well, Ian, thank you for the gift of your time today and for the generosity and your wisdom that you shared with us. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we finish up?
Sure. And thank you for the gift of your time, Michelle. I'd like to give our listeners a gift if they're interested. I'd like to give anyone who's watching this, listening to this, a free 30-day trial of SalesLook. So perhaps we can put that in the notes underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the
Mm-hmm.
link, sign up for it. If you have questions, if anyone has questions about it, reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn, or ian@ianselby.com is my email, or
Okay.
just say, hey, Michelle, I want to talk to Ian. And
That'll
Michelle and
work
I are,
too.
yeah, we trade people back and forth all the time. So
One of those relationships architectured on trust.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. So we've got ianselby.com. You can find him very active on LinkedIn as well. And of course, if you're having any trouble, you can reach out to me certainly, and I can help you get in touch. Thank you for the gift to our listeners, Ian. 30-day trial of SalesLook would be, I'm sure many people are going to be curious about that, and we'll take you up on that offer. So thank you. And we'll look forward to our next opportunity to connect. Bye for now.